Yeah.
I was over at the community garden. Do you know how hard it is to dig through that wild area? Sorry, Jeff.
That's okay.
I know.
Verify that for Tim, but that's just I'll verify
came
the third.
through.
Yeah. All right, I think we're live. It's a little bit after 7. Welcome, everybody, to the August 12th Board of Selectmen meeting. We're going to start off with a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Great. All right, this should be a pretty quick meeting, I think, I hope, here. A couple of, one announcement actually, before we get to the appointments. The Hamilton Police Department is pleased to announce the commencement of its 8th Citizens Police Academy. The academy will run from 6:30 to 9 p.m. for 10 consecutive Tuesdays, beginning on Tuesday, September 24th, and concluding on Tuesday, November 26th. Everybody that I've talked to that's participated in this has absolutely loved it. I don't know if you all get feedback, but yeah, did you do it?
I participated. It was so much fun.
Oh, good, good.
Yes.
So that's out there. It's going to be happening this fall. Board and committee openings. We have one opening in the Board of Health and one opening with the Hamilton Affordable Housing Trust. Now is our time for public comment. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add? Peter? Sure.
Peter Britton, 466 Highland Street. I'm not sure whether it relates to anything on the agenda. I don't think it does. Just want to bring to the board's attention the fact that there are items on the 550 Highland Street property card in the assessor's office, which are, in my opinion and other people's opinions, are invalid. So I'm going to leave you with 6 copies here. One pertains to a sale that supposedly took place of the property from the state of Massachusetts, which there's a date recorded. There was never such sale. So I just, in looking ahead to actions that may be taken at the legislative level and with regard to the new town council, I just want to make sure that the area of the assessor's property cards and whatever, and any reflection on them or action that needs to be taken so that this is a complete action. I have included as well the property card for the property at Maudsley, which I believe is the correct way in which rental-only or residence-only housing owned by the curatorship or owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts should be reflected. So I will just simply leave this.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Thank you very much. I'll get this to everybody. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Selectmen reports. You want to start, Bill?
I did not attend the last town hall committee meeting.
Me neither,
But,
yeah.
and I know planning board is just on the final stages of their rewrite of the sort of master plan and working, I think now with the Affordable Housing Trust is reworking their housing production plan with the same consultant. So I think that's the only thing I really have to update on that. Not much else going on.
Okay, great. Rosie?
Okay. There was one meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust, which I was unable to attend, unfortunately. Concom meeting regarding the wetlands bylaw rewrite. We're going to have that there was a mix-up at the last meeting and it wasn't on the agenda, so we will be discussing it in detail this Wednesday evening. And then I'm sure everybody else will mention this, but I just wanted to comment at how elucidating the water meeting was that last week? It was
2 weeks ago.
Okay, so that was a very interesting, very enlightening, and very educational session. And I would encourage people who are interested in our water supply, which of course is everybody in town, to look at it on the ham cam. I think it would be very enlightening for everybody. So I think that's all that I have to add.
Great. All right, thank you. Sean, how about you?
I don't have much. We almost had a CPC meeting last Thursday. We didn't have a quorum. I missed the meeting, sorry. So I think they're trying to reschedule for Monday before our next Selectmen's meeting at 6 o'clock. So we'll be finally reviewing the final finance part of the grant applications and then moving forward from there so everything gets ready for town meeting.
Great.
That's really it.
All right, thanks. Yes, Darcy.
I went to a Capcom meeting last week. They're reaching out for department heads, and they're looking to prioritize projects based on need and funding sources and discovering what they are. So lots of work will be required. We're looking for a wholesale collaboration between all the stakeholders because it's such a task. It's a lot of work. And they will be meeting with the FinCom on the 28th. Also toured the water plant with Rosie.
Right. Forgot.
And that was enlightening as well. We learned that they have changed up some of their cultural practices so that they have been able to reduce the concentration of the trihalomethanes, and which means we don't have to spend, it's not an emergency, we don't have to spend that $1.3 million for the pre-treatment plant. We can use that money for other things having to do with water. So that was some good news. And, you know, they, let me see if there's anything else. Yeah, I think that's it. They've found a way to reduce the organic byproducts, and they'll continue looking for ways to reduce it as they go along.
Great.
I met with Joe and David Wanger, who's the chairman of the FinCom, and that was a very good meeting. A lot of it is going to be on the agenda, so I won't bother going through
Got
that.
it.
But
Got
thank
it.
you.
Excellent. Thank you. The only thing I have is I did attend Michael Keneally's visit to the Patton Homestead. He's Secretary of Housing and Economic Development. Brad Hill was there. Bruce Tarr was there. Kaylee did a really wonderful job giving a tour of the property and explaining what the town's goals and, you know, what some of the opportunities are there. And I thought it was a really nice visit. He was there a good hour plus, which is a lot of time for somebody like that. And he was on his way to see other properties. So it was a really great tour, and again, Kaylee did a really nice job.
I
Yeah.
think we had some participation from our other partners out there as well, right? One a museum and the Hamilton Historical Society.
Yep.
Both were on site and
That's right.
helped show the changes of the things that have been going on out there programmatically. So
Is there potential for grants? Is that what?
Yes, exactly. I think
And
that's the
Are we in a
idea.
good situation to receive a grant or two?
It's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. But
So
that
you
was the
didn't give me any
idea of
clues.
getting them out there.
Getting a foot in the
Yeah.
door, right? So
Yeah,
That's a good
exactly.
FaceTime.
getting them out here is a good first step, we'll put it that way.
Yeah. So that's all I had. All right. And then town manager report.
I won't go too long. I have the town manager report. I want to first of all apologize. It's the first report I've done since back at the beginning of July. We delayed one meeting, and I was away right before another meeting, so there's a little reason why that's taken a while to get this one out. But this will be on the website tomorrow. I'll just hit some of the high points for you, things that I'd like us to know about. First of all, I want to congratulate Hamilton Highway Foreman, or I should say former Hamilton Highway Foreman Peter Cobb. He's been promoted to be the Assistant DPW Director.
Oh, wow.
And started in that role effective today. Pete's knowledge of Hamilton's day-to-day operations, the respect he has earned from the men and women in the department, and his work ethic made him a perfect choice to serve in the role. Pete will be working with Tim Olson to identify his replacement as highway foreman, and will be involved in overseeing the day-to-day operations of the entire department going forward. Very happy to have him aboard. Also want to thank Representative Brad Hill, who helped make a connection for me with the Cape Ann Transit Authority, Transportation Authority. I had a brief get-to-know-you meeting with the new Executive Director, Felicia Webb, and we'll be talking a little bit more about that later at the end of this meeting, so I won't go into the details, but making that connection through Rep Hill was helpful. I was going to mention the water meeting, which everybody's already spoken well of, so I'll echo Selectman Kennedy's point, and people should, if they're interested, should watch it on HWCAM or YouTube. And you mentioned Secretary Keneally's visit, and then I just wanted to say, the Hamilton Wenham Summer Park Camp program is a great program. I know because my son's been participating this summer, and I just wanted to take a moment to say, thank you to the 36 young men and women who are working in that camp as counselors this year. They're doing a fantastic job. My son loves the camp. I haven't heard anything negative from anybody. They have about, on average, 180 kids a week in that camp, and they're doing a great job. And the kids, I call them kids because they're 17, 18, 19. I'm a lot older than that, but they're doing a fantastic job. They're patient, they're kind, they really put the kids first, and it's great to see. So the rest of it's on things that were on my town manager goals, and folks can read about that online. So thanks very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, consent agenda. 3 items here. Approve the appointment of Peter Blanchett as interim building inspector for Hamilton on recommendation of Patrick Reffett and Jackie Bresnahan. Approve minutes of July 1st, 2019 joint meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Community Preservation Committee, and approve the minutes of the July 15th, 2019 Board of Selectmen meeting. Before we take a vote, I wanted to acknowledge Peter is here tonight. Thank you for coming. And if anybody has any questions of Peter, you do? If you do, I guess now would be the time to ask those questions.
So just a real quick remind you that this is a hire through the joint agreement with the Town of Wenham. The Town of Wenham Board of Selectmen, under the agreement, has the authority to appoint, but in order for Peter or anybody to do the work in Hamilton, we'd have to appoint. Peter has been appointed by the Wenham Board of Selectmen, so
Okay.
he's been offered the interim position.
Good.
They go through a search, so.
Great.
I'm fine.
You're fine? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So with that, I'll have a motion to approve the consent agenda item, please.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
It's unanimous.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you to the rest of the members. I thank you for your vote and confidence. I'm sure I can fill Brian's shoes for you, at least temporarily. I'm state certified, I'm internationally certified. I've been doing building inspection work for 15 years. I come from Lawrence, Massachusetts. Kind of a change for me. I'm excited. I'm going to start digging in. I'll be in the office upstairs.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're on TV, so we need to be at the microphone, sorry.
I usually shy away from that. Again, I just wanted to thank you and let you know that I am fully certified. I bring a large toolbox of experience to the towns here. I'm actually really excited about the transition from the type of work and the style of work that I have been doing. And to come to these 2 towns. I've been touring the towns for a couple of weeks. I got to meet the Wenham, most of the folks in the town hall. I went through your town hall today and was very, very welcomed. They all got their fingers crossed for a vote for me. So, so I just thank you. I'll be emailing tomorrow each of you my personal contact. Once I get my regular phone numbers, you probably already have them. They'll just be transferring my name to it. But I'll give you my personal cell phones. I know complaints and things most times come to you before they go to the authorities. And I want you to feel open and feel free. I know it's temporary, but I am used to 24/7. And I hope to step up and do a good job for you here, okay?
Great,
And I
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll call you this week.
Thanks,
Pull up-
Peter.
Make sure you get started pulling the file for 86 Meyer Road. I'll be calling you on that this
I
week
knew
to
you
get
were
that.
Was that the zoning issue?
No, it's,
No.
pull the file. I'll talk to you later this week. 86 Meyer Road.
Okay, if you need help carrying that file,
Have a
Thank
good night,
you.
Peter.
Good night. Okay, on to the agenda. We're a little ahead of schedule here. The first item is to accept proposed contract for the Fire Chief Ray Burnett. And this is just our first kind of reading, refer to this for future vote?
Yep.
Is that what you're?
Yep, I'm submitting it to you so you can review it.
Okay.
We worked on it with Ray over the last couple of months and kind of informed the negotiations by what's going on in other towns around us, similar size, similar types of challenges. And I think it's a good contract, it's fair, he's agreed to the terms in it, so look forward to hearing your feedback.
Good, okay, all right.
Sorry, who's reviewed the contract so far? The language? It's been reviewed by everybody?
It'll be reviewed by you.
But in terms of town council or his council?
It was reviewed by Old Town Council, I'll have new Town Council look
That
at
was
it.
my question, yeah, okay.
And you'll get a copy to FinCom?
Yes, we will.
Awesome, all right. Okay, next item, discussion of articles proposed for special town meeting warrant. Vote to close the warrant to new articles.
So, I mean, this is a little bit a change in language from what you folks are used to here. One of the challenges I was apprised of was the kind of making sure that we kind of have a regular set schedule for the way we approve a warrant for town meeting. So this will be our first full pass at that. My hope here is that you won't have you won't be voting on exact article language tonight, but you'll be voting on the items that would be on the warrant. And then, once I have a vote of you folks tonight on that, you can vote to close the warrant to new items, and we'll submit these to town council to start drafting the warrant language. That'll come back up for you at a future vote later on, probably maybe the first meeting in September. But at least we can set the agenda, so to speak, for the town meeting, and everybody will know what we're going to be discussing, so.
May I ask, so the first week of September, we can expect to have draft language?
Yes.
Okay, and then after that, as we refine it over time.
Hopefully in a very short amount of time. 'cause we
Yeah,
wanna
yeah,
be
I was
able
just
to-
gonna say.
We want to be able to,
Let's try to do
So
less
will
than 5
FinCom
drafts. Less than 3 drafts.
I'd like to keep it to, 2 or 3 drafts at most.
Will FinCom get it also the first week of September?
Of course.
Okay, great.
Part of the reason for having this kind of a schedule is to give everybody ample time to
Yes.
do their work, and that includes the FinCom. So we'll give it to them as we, as they ask questions, we might decide to change the wording of articles just to make it clearer. If they ask a question, and there's a better way to make it clearer, let's do it. It's not a,
Perfect.
that doesn't mean everybody has to be in full agreement on every item as it goes into warrant, but you'll all get your chance to vote your recommendations, and town meeting will be apprised of it.
So do we take each item and vote to put it on the warrant? Is that what you're suggesting, or do we?
whole thing. You folks can choose to do it that way. You can go one at a time. You can go through them and just pull the ones you decide that you vote not to have and include the
All
rest of the slate, however you want to do
That
it.
makes perfect sense.
But the first question here, the prior year bills and the amount of, that total amount there, it might be off slightly. I was told that after, I had to step out of the office for about an hour today, and while I was away, a couple of things were changed in the body underneath it. That number 3421 should be the total of what's beneath it. I haven't had a chance to double check that number since they amended it on the agenda for me, so. Just understand that these are the bills that we're proposing to put forward right now, and this would be a kind of a typical warrant question on a special town meeting agenda, which is to handle bills of a prior year, so.
Got it.
These bills all came in after we posted the last warrant for FY19, that's why they're here.
Got it, okay. And then education appropriation decrease of,
Can I pause, Mr. Chair, for just a second?
sure.
On the prior year bills, are there any transfers that we need to do for any of that, or is that all accounted for?
Marissa will clarify how we're handling this, but I don't believe we'll be doing any transfers.
Okay.
I don't.
Because I know
believe-
we had a window right before, and there's only a couple times you can do transfers,
Yeah,
right?
and
So-
and you folks at
We did it
Might have been the
at
July
full.
1st meeting,
Yeah.
you voted a bunch of transfers to close the books, and we did that, we did those already. This is for what came in after
After.
all the transfers and everything else.
Okay.
In some cases, it was vendors who just dragged their feet getting us the invoices.
Yeah, it looks like
And-
one vendor in particular, really.
So we're just trying to, close out and.
Yeah, that's fine. It's a small amount anyway, so just curious.
Yep.
All right, sorry, continue.
Okay, no problem. Education appropriation?
So this is actually a decrease of the annual town meeting vote that was taken in in April, because if you'll recall, the Wenham town meeting did not vote to approve the school expenditure for the OPEB, and therefore it had to be eliminated from the school's budget. We can return that back to the taxpayer, so
Okay,
not
great.
appropriate for it. So this vote, when the language comes out, will effectively allow us to change the April town meeting vote and reduce the need to raise this money through taxation, and that money won't hit the tax rate.
What's that on the tax rate, offhand?
I want to say it's about,
I think it's every 20,000 is like
7 or 8 cents?
I want to say it's every 60,000 is 6 cents, or 70,000 is 6 cents, something like that. So you've got about 12, potentially 12 cents here. Again, it's a little bit of an academic issue, because really until you close the year and you close the books and no free cash and everything else, tax rate doesn't really get set. It's always an estimate.
Right.
But it would be an estimate downward from what we
Downward
were
from
at
where
in
we were,
April.
yeah.
So
Good,
that's the good news.
that is good news. All right. Collective bargaining transfers from salary reserve to individual departments.
And this is kind of a bookkeeping or paperwork issue. We approved at town meeting a sum of money to go into a reserve account because we were in the process of negotiating 3 union contracts. They've been settled, they've been signed, we are starting to pay them. If we don't transfer the money out of the reserve account, those will eventually run into the red, and then we'd be doing end-of-year transfers next year. The more appropriate way to handle those is to transfer the money from the salary reserve line item to the budgets that need them, and then those budgets will stay in the black all year long.
Okay.
Makes sense.
All right, any other questions on that?
No?
All right. Debt service, Phase 4 water improvements, authorization to borrow 1.74 million from the original 10 million authorized in 2014 to allow fall, spring project timeline.
So this is essentially allowing us to go out and bond. So you'll remember, 2014, town meeting authorized a $10 million project. You've bonded that in the pieces that you needed to get the work done. We're now kind of at the end where there's about 1.474 million left under that original town meeting authorization that hasn't been bonded. We have more distribution work we can do with that money. And the update that was in your packets from Tim kind of outlines what that work would be. So we need the vote of town meeting to allow us to go out and actually bond that money that was previously voted.
Okay, so it'll be new money, but previously approved under the 10 million.
For improvements to the water distribution system, yes.
Okay,
And the source of those funds will be the water rate, not taxation.
right, okay.
Yeah, so, sorry, to go back, the last article, 2019 4-211 was the OPED, which was at the time a $125,000 ask that we voted for, now was 7 cents per thousand.
Oh, okay.
So the 106 would be like, maybe closer to like 9 cents,
Okay.
Okay,
which is they figured $42 on a home value of 600,000. So somewhere in that range.
what is it, how many cents per?
Thank you, Bill.
7 cents for 125,000, so it's like 5 cents for every 100,000, but you can figure out
Okay.
5
good.
cents per 100,000.
That's good to know.
That is good to know.
All right. Okay. Non-zoning conservation wetlands protection bylaw, that would be Rosemary Kennedy.
Hi. So as I said earlier, we'll be discussing this in detail at the Concom on Wednesday night. And I think you have a copy of the draft, which is in its essence similar to a lot of language that's on our current bylaw. There are some provisions that can be added to make our bylaw more protective of the protected areas, including a groundwater, our water supply, soil erosion control, storm damage. There's concern for water pollution, wildlife, and recreation. And so the Mass Association of Conservation Commission has developed a general wetlands bylaw, a model wetlands bylaw, and so I did the draft using that. Now, the thing that's a little bit different about Hamilton is, and which I will discuss with the Conservation Commission, a lot of the issues are in there, but they're looser. And I believe it's important to protect our water resources to the extent allowable by law, especially in light of what we learned at our water meeting two weeks ago. So, for instance, our bylaw, it doesn't allow for uncertified vernal pool habitat, but it mentions it in the regulations. And so what I'd like to see is our bylaw be tight, specific, and non-disputable in terms of its specificity. Our bylaw also does not include intermittent streams as a water resource to be protected, but in our regulations, it's there in parentheses. I want things like that out in front so that anybody who comes to our town looking to do some sort of a project within the resource area will understand clearly what the restrictions are. And then there's one other thing there are two other things. The burden of proof. There should be, in the language, I'm going to talk to Concom about this, about there being a presumption that any work in this resource area shall be detrimental to the protected interest, and that the onus is on the person who wants to do the work in the area to prove by a preponderance of the credible evidence that the work will not harm resources. I think that's important, and a lot of the bylaws that I've looked at do include that in their language. Now, we have a burden of proof. It's a little bit looser. I'd like to see the language a little bit tighter. And then we'll tighten up our language. I'd like to see our language tightened up so where the Conservation Commission may do this and may do that, I would like to see language changed to shall, so it's more definitive about the expectations, what the bright line is between what's allowed and what isn't. Finally, in our bylaw, it talks about a person who violates any provision of this bylaw shall be punished by a fine of not more than $300. Well, I think our water resources are not replaceable. They're very precious and very finite. And so a lot of the bylaws that I've looked at, a violator would incur this same violation on a daily basis. And once I talk to Concom, I hope to come up with a number that's serious. I think $300 is, as a one-time fine is not a serious enough number, and I'd like to see that specifically stated. So, and one of the other things is setbacks for septic systems. Some of the bylaws require a 300-foot setback. I don't know what ours is. I believe it's a 100-foot setback. I may be wrong about that number. I need to research that more. But I, again, as I said, would like to see us protect our water resources with as strong a bylaw as is allowed under law. And so that's my little...
Is there a map that's going to go with this bylaw? So it's not, like I said, I don't want it to be ambiguous. You don't want people to know what they're, I mean, we have so how do we create a map that, and how much, and then I'd be curious to know how much because this deals with the conservancy district, right? This is the next step of that, trying to get rid of the conservancy district and going with the conservation bylaw? Is that the goal?
Well, the conservancy district is gone because it was a zoning bylaw, and it was not legally defensible for many reasons. But this bylaw uses wetlands, discernible wetlands, either based in the actual water itself or by plant material that would ordinarily surround a wetlands.
Who would be the enforcement agent of this bylaw?
In most cases,
It's Conscom in there.
it would be the Conservation Commission if it was resolvable by the Concom, and the person who was violating, perhaps it's unknowing, and they would pay their fines and correct the issue. But there will be authority for police to be involved if somebody is not adhering to the requirements. I think it's an important enough issue. I think it's fair. There is nothing proposed in here that isn't in the Mass Association of Conservation Commissions, and that is not included in several bylaws, especially with the degree of wetlands that we have.
So I did take the liberty of discussing this briefly with KP Law prior to Tom going on his vacation. He said that the sooner he can see a draft of it, the sooner he'll be able to make sure that we keep it within the lines of the model bylaw. He's had some experience already doing that, so.
Perfect.
If you can kind of bring this up to, final version for them, you'll get town council's review, and then you can have a meeting. You can include this as part of one of your upcoming meetings prior to the warrant language being finalized.
So it's based on, you said, so this is from the town of Wendell, but it's used in other towns too, or how many towns use this same language?
Many.
Many.
I've looked at Ipswich, I've looked at Wenham, I've looked at Newbury, I've looked at other small towns, many of those who have a lot of wetlands. For instance, Wendell has the Quabbin Reservoir out there, so they're a good model to use because they have a huge interest in protecting their wetlands.
More than a third of their community is natural, state park or national. So it's a little different geography, and it's important to them. But they have, I think, more than a third of their real estate is already, parkland. So whether it's state or local or federal park. So. I don't think we have that much, so maybe, I don't know if there's more of a, I'm just more concerned about how I think it's important, our wetlands are important, our water source is important, but I'm just trying to think how we manage it and how we enforce it, and then
Sure.
it can't be vague. We can't have a homeowner all of a sudden think they're gonna do something, find out, I
Right.
bought the property, I'm gonna build an addition, now I
Right.
can't because I have
Right.
some sort of plant on my property that was never identified before, so
Well-
how do you grandfather, how do you grandfather?
Well, I don't think you do grandfather, and that's
Right.
included in the bylaw that talks about that if somebody sells the property and it's non-conforming, then that homeowner is responsible for bringing the violation into compliance.
Right, but it's conforming now, it's just not, it will only be non-conforming once the bylaw got passed, right, so.
We can
Yeah.
ask KP Law how that's been.
Right, you're probably there's probably, we're
Lots of questions.
50% plus protected property in Hamilton, right? And we saw the map during the housing
Right.
forum, right? Almost 70% is conservation land or wetland or something like that. So we really don't have that much buildable. And a lot of times when people come to the Conscom, it's for some type of a variance because there are already houses already in that zone. So this is going to confound that issue a little bit more, I think. I'm with Bill and stuff like that. I think it's important to protect these resources, but to the grandfathering kind of air quotes around it there, you're going to have probably a significant amount of property in town that is, we live in a swamp in Essex County here, so you're going to run up against that kind of situation, I think, more often than not, that places are, nearer to these resources than we know about, especially with vernal pools and stuff like that, that probably some of them aren't documented in town. We have a handful that are, but I'm sure there's other issues that habitat and vernal pools, et cetera.
Well, honestly, this bylaw is already in effect. It's just being strengthened a little bit with a little bit of language and tweaked. So nothing will be new. And I hardly think that there's any excuse to grandfather somebody to allow them to degrade our wetlands and to potentially cause harm to our water supply.
And I don't know if degrade's the right word. I guess I'm saying if someone has part of their dwelling that's already in that zone.
Oh, I see what you're saying, okay.
And they want to update that part of it, but not add footprint to the building or
that's right.
whatnot. I want to make sure that they're able to update their home without.
Or improve something that needs to be improved.
Right, or improve something that needs
That's
to be improved.
correct.
If you've got a barn on your property that's near the buffer zone, I want that person to be able to fix their barn up instead of just let it fall into the disrepair, so.
I think I misunderstood your
okay.
comment. You are correct, and that is already in our bylaw and certainly should be maintained. It should not, and I agree with you 100%, but somebody would not be grandfathered in the sense of being able to enlarge the footprint. Okay, that's absolutely what I'm talking
It says,
about.
under conservation, it says, no work, structures, disturbance, or alterations will be allowed within the conservation, except for minor activities such as mowing, gardening, and pruning within existing law. So, but doesn't refer to the, like you said, the structure. So we just need to clean that up a little bit, I think.
Yeah, no, there is, okay.
There is, it's in here?
There
Okay.
is a section in there that allows for structures that are already there to be rehabbed or rebuilt on the same footprint. There
If the
is
structure
that.
or facility is not substantially changed or
Yeah.
enlarged.
Yeah.
So now we got to define substantially, but.
Right.
And then also sort of, but then it does say, there's a lot of excepts. It says, except as permitted by the, so you can go to the Conservation Commission and get a variance for this. There, at the end of the day, they can vote on yea or nay.
Well, no, it's not so discretionary. It has to be something that by the credible evidence will not cause substantial damage to the wetlands. And the Conservation Commission, being experts in the area, understand what kind of harms would come to a potential building. I think one of the other issues is also cumulative. If you do this and this and this, it's going to add up to substantial damage.
Can I, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to suggest, since Selectwoman Kennedy is still refining the final language and is seeking the input of the Conservation Commission later this week, maybe we take a chance to review this
Give it a look
individually
over.
and then come back at the meeting that you'll be voting on the final language. And that
Okay.
might-
I think, but these things should be sort of discussed. So I think,
I'm not trying to-
there's
I'm not trying to close down.
but there's property between like Woodland Mead and Patton that we just approved 3 or 4. There was some discussion about whether those were vernal pools or not. So this is sort of would affect, and those aren't permitted yet, they're not sold yet. So just, once again, how does that affect that was already approved?
That's already in our bylaw. That's not going to be changed.
But there was some,
And these are-
ambiguity about some people thought it was vernal pools and some people thought it wasn't. So what happens when we pass this bylaw and then it's all of a sudden they're not buildable lots, but yet we just approved the lots,
Well,
a
vernal,
year ago, so.
yeah, vernal
That's right.
pools.
Once again, we're looking at worst case scenario and trying to avoid litigation. So
Yeah.
that's what in a perfect world, it moves forward, but you have gray areas that people might be affected that we don't want to put ourselves into litigation over.
But vernal pools are already in our existing bylaw and regs.
Not if
Uncertified.
not if it's not in conservation.
No, that's not a,
I don't think that's correct. I think it has to be in,
You're correct.
it has to be on a,
Has to be
wetlands.
designated on the
Has to
map.
be designated on a map.
I mean,
I think
you're
we
right,
have a handful
and
that
it's
aren't.
already
There's a
stated
handful
in
of ones
here.
that aren't designated on a map right now, according to.
Even out on
residents in town.
Chabaco, those ones out by the
Mm-hmm.
landfill, there's a
Right.
couple that are on the map, but there's more back there that aren't on the map.
Right. We have some, I'm just concerned about.
And the other thing you have to think of too is some of these vernal pools, they're not a permanent thing. So if
Right,
our
they dry,
map was
wet,
made
right.
20 years ago,
Right.
some aren't there, some new ones have formed, you know.
Vernal pools only occur at one time of the year.
Right.
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 But they
One time
also
of the year,
move and
plus,
change.
You know, everything, it changes over time, so.
Okay, but just to be clear, it is already in the existing bylaw, so that will not change, just,
Look at that.
yeah. So it's in the conservation bylaw regulations. It is,
But I think it's
Under-
corner poles as identified by,
Yeah, and I think
By
that,
protectors.
to my kind of point there is if we have a, and then we can move on and send Rosie comments if we want, but
yep.
say, I look at the map, it says there's a vernal pool on my property, and I go out there and it's not there, and I go there and it's not there the time of the year that it should be there, and it's been gone. So then, I've got a buildable spot on my property to do something with, but it's an outdated map. How do we handle that situation?
vegetation would be the deciding factor in that instance.
So that would be a review to the conscom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good effort. I think there's just a lot of work to go into. I'm not sure if it's going to be ready for town meeting is my only issue. So,
Well, I'll do my best. I appreciate all the comments, and it's always important to get different perspectives, so thank you for your input.
Have you talked to anybody from Wendell, where you borrowed this from?
yeah, I'd love to actually see if they'd come and talk to us. That'd be great. Let's see what lessons learned, pros
Yeah,
and
I'd
cons.
say
plus-
we've done this kind of stuff in the past,
Yeah.
borrowed from other places.
Yeah, for planning
It's
board,
always my
same thing.
recommendation. I've done it. You call that conservation agent or whatever and just say, hey, I'm looking at your bylaw and modifying it to bring to my town. Have a little conversation with how does it work? Are there problems with it? And
Well,
that can
it's-
go a long way.
Yeah, this is a new bylaw there. I did speak with DEP here in Boston, and I also spoke with Ipswich River Water Resource, Ipswich River Water.
Watershed Association, yeah.
There you
So
go,
it's a
yes, I'm
mouthful.
sorry.
IRWA,
Yeah.
or whatever.
So I have gotten some local comments on this draft. And there's one other source, and I apologize for not being able to think of it off the top of my head. But I have definitely sought input from several sources.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rosie.
Yeah, well, it's a good effort, so continue it. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your input.
All right, good discussion. Next up, CPC requests. First off is affordable housing to Habitat for Humanity, $200,000 estimated, and the Town Hall Building Committee request, partial for their total cost of what they're planning to do would be $200,000 from the CPC.
So these will be voted at the meeting Monday night by the CPC for their recommendation. The CPC right now has identified about $450,000, so I'm not giving you the exact number, but about $450,000 that it has access to award to applicants. They don't want to spend all of it. They would like to keep a little bit, and they're currently considering both these requests. They're the only two requests they got for this cycle, and they're both eligible, so it's just a matter of whether or not the CPC votes to put them both forward, and that number may change based on the CPC's board's vote. So, but right now, what I've been told is they're thinking about $200,000 for each. So
There was, I think last time, the community house, there was a little bit of back and forth with something that they approved, and then we didn't approve it, and they approved it. Are we in sort of any of that same territory here, where these things are something that we might have an issue with?
I don't
Or-
think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. The Affordable Housing Trust request is to assist with the purchase of land from an owner on Asbury Street.
Near the
That
cell
would be
phone
sold to
tower.
the Habitat, yeah, it would be sold to the Habitat for Humanity to do, it's either 6 or 7 units of housing out there in townhome style development, and Habitat would be doing the whole project, so
And they
that's,
figured out I think the only issue we had with that was carving out the land for they didn't want to sell the land that the cell phone tower was on. Did they figure out a way to carve that
yeah,
off?
I don't have the details. Is it Don Preston, what's his name from Habitat?
Preston.
Don
Don
Preston
Preston.
from Habitat wasn't at the last meeting, but they've been moving forward. They provided the they provided the Affordable Housing Trust with estimates on the land values or appraisals of the land values, and they're kind of coming to a consensus on what they'd be able to purchase and have access to make the project work, so.
That was a great project, and I'm 100% for it. I just wanted to make sure they figured out the
The
fine
real
print, 'cause
estate
it was
action,
tough to have access to it, carve it out, maintain the frontage, because you can't really have a piece of land within, as an island with no access. So I wasn't sure how we we're gonna make that work. According to our planning board and town bylaws, it's gonna be hard to do, so I'm curious.
I know the Affordable Housing Trust is paying attention to that aspect, because in addition to the 200,000 from CPC, there would be Affordable Housing Trust money that would be.
Yeah, no, and they have the money to do it, because we
Got
told us.
650 or something on top of
That's
that.
a great project. It'll get us seven units, so,
Yep.
Nice. That'd be great.
and quicker than the last project, promised.
Keep our fingers crossed.
All right, Town Hall Building Committee request, 407,767,000. So that would be combined with their CPC request, and my understanding is the goal is that amount of money would get them absolutely everything they need to determine what the exact cost would be to do the building.
Full set of documents,
The
yeah.
full set of
And full-
documents and going through bidding, so that
Right.
when you came to town meeting
Right.
in the spring, you would actually have not just an estimate or cost estimate, you would have the contractor said they would accept X to do this work. So
Right.
you would have the exact amount of money for construction, which is huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see, home rule petition for 550 Highland Street. No funds sought.
Yeah, no funds. So this is just clearing up what
Clarification, right?
happened,
Housekeeping kind of thing.
housekeeping kind of
Can
thing.
you
We
pass out is there 6 copies of that
Oh.
Peter gave you? Right there.
6 copies of thi-
Right there,
this.
you might,
I don't think this relates necessarily, but you can give these now. This is,
so I have a copy of it.
yeah, that's fine.
Separate, same issue kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, I don't know how he did this, so.
If you look at the red bullet point on the
Yep.
first page,
Yep.
there, it'll show you the reflection that there was a sale,
Yep.
and then out beyond, there's a date for a sale. There's also a book and page number, which is quite interesting, 0000.
So you said you have, right,
It's not done.
what I'm trying to do is figure out, you said you have 6 copies here. How many pages are in each copy?
Just two.
Just 2, okay. There we go, that's what I need. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks.
We got the let down the end, I got.
Yeah.
I don't have 6 copies, but that's okay. Before we leave, I'll get a copy of yours and we'll go forward. And then,
Sorry, I couldn't mention it.
no worries, Peter, we'll get it straightened out. But
Yeah.
the question that you're going to be considering here is more towards towards solving the problem that we had. The issue before you potentially on the warrant is to submit the home rule petition that the board had previously agreed to back to the legislature, but with specific language asking the legislature to act. So if you'll recall, and this was done under executive session, but it's already been out there that the town had, the Board of Selectmen had submitted a request to the legislature for a home rule petition, and the legislature chose, or not chose, but determined that they could not act on it because a home rule petition has to be accompanied by a vote of the town meeting asking the legislature to act. What you sent with the other language was an advisory vote of the town meeting to the Board of Selectmen. So because that was not specifically worded to ask the state legislature to take action, the legislature did not, the council and the State House did not necessarily have any problem with what you were proposing to do. They had a problem with the technical way it was put before them. So they asked us to get a town meeting vote asking them to approve the home rule petition that you submitted previously. If you put it on the warrant and the town meeting approves it, we can send it back into the legislature.
All right. Do over.
But that's the simple explanation.
Joe, do you have any idea how long that will take
Yeah,
to be completed? Once, presuming the town meeting votes in the affirmative?
Yeah, I mean, a better question, it depends on what else is going on with the legislature at that time of year, how the Representative Hill can get it onto the legislature's agenda for a vote. Typically, home rule petitions are turned around pretty quick at the state level. I would assume, barring some kind of unforeseen complications, if we have this vote on October 19th, we send it out as soon as the minutes of the town meeting are validated by the town clerk. I would think that before the end of the calendar year, it would be resolved by the state. But
Wow.
they're not gonna drag it. It's something they probably put on an agenda in November or early December and move it out. But, you know, they get it, the legislative council reviews it and then submits it for inclusion on an agenda. And when it gets taken up, that's when it can get voted. But typically, unless there's a reason that it would cause a problem in another municipality, the legislators usually approve local action.
Okay.
And this is just local, just for Hamilton.
Just Hamilton, deals with Hamilton, doesn't deal with anybody else, which I think has been a stumbling block on other legislative efforts.
I'll give you that.
Doesn't do anything to anybody else.
Right, right.
5 years, it'd be nice to see this put to bed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, I'll look at all this, because we just got past this, so I'll look at all this and
Okay.
excuse me, I'll PDF a copy to everybody tomorrow
Thank you.
for your attention, and including the Board of Assessors, so that they'll have it. I'll ask the new assessor to look into it and provide any information he has on it for you. John Spinell.
Great. All right. Let's see, amendment to Chapter 59, Section 5, Clause 41A of the Mass General Laws, increasing the income limit for senior single household tax filers to $58,000 per year.
So this is another housekeeping issue, and it also deals with the Board of Assessors. The town adopted Chapter 59, Section 5 many decades ago. It became apparent to our staff in the Director of Assessors office that the income limit for that program did not seem to have been updated. They think that right now we're operating on an income limit for a single person tax filer of $40,000 per year. There is currently only one person in town taking advantage of this program, but we want to make sure that it's available to others. The program is not a forgiveness of property taxes.
And they work it off, kind of.
No, it's not a work-off program, it's a deferral. This program is
Oh, that's right. I'm thinking of a different program.
Yeah, this program is a deferral program. It allows the taxes to be collected when the property is sold.
Property sold, right.
So that's what they're working on right now.
Perfect.
And so they're raising it from 40, you think, to 58, is that what?
Right, you know, it would, in theory, make more people eligible. So a single tax filer who makes up to $58,000 a year could file for this deferral program. It's generally for retired folks, not for the general population.
And Joe, is this for the entire tax amount, or is it a percentage of?
That's a good question. I didn't ask that. It's, there's a formula. I don't think it's for the entire tax amount.
And you do not believe?
I do not believe it's for the entire tax amount, but I will double check.
It's quite a formula here. Goes on for a page and a half.
Yeah. I'll confirm what percentage is deferred.
Is that in our packets, Rosie, or are you gleaning?
It was,
somewhere?
the document was in our package, and I printed it out. I thought it was interesting, but it's a little Greek. I'm not,
I'll ask the Board of, the Board of Assessors, and I'll provide you guys that answer in writing.
I think it's percentage of, but
Yeah.
I don't know how we reach our percentage.
I believe that's true.
Yeah.
Okay. We all set on this? Okay. Repair 6 non-functioning overhead garage doors at the Public Safety Building, cost of $25,800.
6, it's a lot.
You have any questions? We provided some information in the packets for you, but Essentially, the overhead garage doors on the fire side of the department have...
They've never been right
Have
since
never
we...
been right, almost since the day you opened the building.
Yeah.
And a number of different efforts have been made over the years to try to get them to work properly. This year, working with the overhead door company, they did come up with a solution. We used some maintenance funds at the end of the year to try that solution out, and it worked. The doors go all the way to the bottom.
Simple overhead door for $3,000.
No, we paid them on time. That's not the same one. I don't
No,
believe
but I
that.
mean, but that's the same doors. It's the same doors, right? So we just spent $3,000 to fix DPW, police, fire?
Yeah, I didn't think we paid that. I didn't think that we got that in late. I thought we would...
You know what I'm saying is that we've already spent $3 to repair them.
Yeah.
And we gotta spend another $25 to replace them?
But
What's the fix on them that this $25,000 goes to, $26,000 almost? Is it new doors, new mechanicals? Because it says repair 6 non-functioning, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
I would think it would be replace if it was a replacement. Overhead doors aren't cheap, especially in a fire station when you're
Right.
So
paying.
I hope for
Government
26, you can get
coverage,
6 new doors, but is it the motor or is it the door? I mean, so yeah.
So
They don't shut all the way.
this
It's part of the
piece in your,
problem.
this piece in your
Yeah.
packets was from Ray, and it explained, explained the issue. So with this year, we spent $3,500 to repair 2 doors. There are 8 doors that had this problem. We're asking for this money to repair the other 6,
Gotcha, okay.
because this was the first solution that actually worked.
Okay, they came up with a viable solution.
strung us along for years.
So this would be $25,800 to, on top of what we spent. It's for other doors entirely.
Okay.
Oh, so it's
Repair
All
the
new
other
kind
6
of-
doors, yeah.
rollers, cables, moldings, torsion. Yeah. And so basically, this money is to fix the other doors that they haven't addressed the issue with
Right.
the overhead door company.
The thought, because so many different efforts at fixing these had failed in the past, was let's see if this suggestion works by testing it on 2 doors.
That's good.
They did it.
Thinking.
It worked. So now we need the money to fix the other doors
Okay.
before the snow flies.
Brilliant, brilliant, right.
Yeah, okay.
good.
Now it makes sense.
But it saves on heat, right?
Oh,
So
yes.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. If you've ever been in there in the wintertime, and the doors are, it's like this much, you can just feel the air blowing in on you, the snow and
The snow
everything.
blowing in and the hot air going out, so.
Yeah.
So what are we required to do though for procurement? You don't need like, you're not required to get like 3 bids or anything like that? You can, because under.
It'll follow procurement process.
Okay.
We know, because we have this and we've done it. So the first 2 doors were done for under 10,000, so we were able to
Yep.
follow best business practices. This
Okay.
other door company came in, worked with us on what the solution was. They recommended things. We hired them to do that at that price. It works.
Interesting.
In order to spend the 25,800, we will have to go out for quotes. But we can
Okay, gotcha.
specifically quote what we want, because now we've done it and we know. An overhead door should win the
Right.
quote, but if somebody else comes in a little lower, we'll save a little bit of money. But we know what overhead doors estimate to do this work would be, and they have successfully done it, so.
Okay,
But we will follow proper procurement procedures if the money is granted.
okay, all right.
All set?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good catch, Phil.
To revise the language of the 2019 Annual Town Meeting, Article 2-18, to allow the 1.5 million appropriation to be used for the preferred option of either water treatment plant improvements or well development as determined to be the most effective and efficient course of action.
So this will just be a language change. You'll recall that one of the
Very
items...
similar that we've done before,
Yeah.
correct?
You'll recall that we had approved a warrant article this year to do the pretreatment at the at the old water plant. And this would be, if our engineers determine that that's not necessary, and there's a less expensive way to achieve the same result, we want the flexibility to do that. So because the language was specific for the pretreatment, we need to have a language change just to allow ourselves the flexibility to save some money.
So, and I think it's fine. The only question I had on flexibility is there a timeline to spend the money by? Because well exploration is going to take a lot longer than this
Only
is
once we
going to.
bond it.
Okay.
Only once we bond it. So
We
we
can
have to have the
we
vote.
can
We
We have the vote, we can kind of sit on the vote.
consider it for, okay. We can sit,
I don't
we
think
don't have
there's
to
any
add any
sense.
language to here saying to changing a date or timeline. It doesn't expire if we don't spend the money
Won't go
by
to bond until they're
next
ready.
year.
We won't go to bond until we know which solution we want to use.
So, good question, though.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, we knew what we were going to do, and it was going to be like within
Right.
a year.
And,
Well
you know-
equation might take a year to 2 years to do, so
So
just want
I'll,
to make sure we don't
you
have
know
to.
what, I'll take it back to Tim and I'll ask, do we want to
Some kind of sunset or something on it.
include some kind of,
So their language in it, you know.
on timing? And then, as we develop the question, we'll consider that, so.
Great. All right. To revise compensation tables based on union agreements and typo on DPW director's pay grade. No new funds sought. It is what it is?
You know,
It's what it is.
it
It is what it is after hard negotiations and work by
Yeah.
this gentleman next to you over there, so.
When the budget was voted, you adopted with it, as part of it, an appendix that included compensation tables.
Yeah.
We've identified that those compensation tables don't actually match up with what we need to
going on?
pay people. So we want to adjust, we want to make those adjustments so that the entire thing is correct.
So it reflects
And with,
reality.
and right, and the same thing with the DPW director's pay grade. He's been at a same pay grade for his
he
entire time
started, yeah.
here, but for whatever reason, it was reflected improperly in the compensation table. So he's still being paid the way he's supposed to be paid, but
just-
we want to make sure it all reads
Right.
right and agrees. We have the money in the budget to do it. We're, not asking for any more money. It's just
Okay.
changing the numbers up a little.
So more kind of housekeeping then,
Yeah.
I guess, a little bit.
Right.
All right. I guess at this point, anything else that we didn't know last week when this was put together? Anybody know of anything?
Anything?
I
No?
knew of nothing today.
Okay, good. All right.
I just had a quick question. In this program that we've been discussing, the tree program, do we need to request funds from town meeting for that, or whatever figure it would be? Obviously a small figure, but I'm just wondering.
Tim and I are planning to, through good budget management, kick the program off in this fiscal year with money that he'll make available in the tree budget, and then we'll look to ask for a little bit more in the budget for FY21. So to establish it more fully, but no, we do not need to at this point ask for more funds than that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so next steps.
I'd like you to have a vote to.
We should close that.
Close this, that these are the items that you'll have on the agenda, or on the warrant, rather, for the special town meeting, and direct me and the town council to work on language over the next 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, to be ready for the beginning of September.
I move that we close the warrant as discussed.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Good. Keep on schedule.
Open for 2 revisions, Joe.
Me too.
I've got high hopes.
It was the craziest thing ever, when I first got here last year for the special, and you guys were already on version like 9 or 10. I was like,
There's been years when
why do you
we're,
need that many versions? So,
Happened
let's
before.
clean this up. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this every year, so.
Sounds good. All right. Update on options for senior transportations with Cape Ann Transit Authority.
So, I'll give you a little bit of detail. It had been suggested to us that the Cape Ann Transit Authority runs a senior transportation service for the town of Ipswich. We are not members of the Cape Ann Transportation Authority, and therefore would not be able to participate in that kind of a program. Through the assistance of Representative Hill, as I said earlier, a meeting was arranged for the Executive Director, Felicia Webb, to come meet with me and talk about our program that we have and what's missing and what needs to be filled in. Felicia explained to us, to me, well, I knew about this, but she explained how we could make an adjustment to it. So the state, in our cherry sheet, takes a chargeback every year for public transportation. In our case, our entire chargeback goes to the MBTA, even though the MBTA doesn't run any specific transportation programs for the town of Hamilton. State law does allow us to join more than one regional transit authority. So if the Board of Selectmen chooses to, at a future meeting, vote to join the Cape Ann Transportation Authority, and the Cape Ann Transportation Authority Executive Board votes to accept us, we could then have CADA submit for part of that state take back. So they would basically not come out of the general fund. It's money we never see anyway, but it's in our budget from the state, and they would be able to ask for a portion of that to assist us with a better transportation program for our seniors. I'm doing some more homework on that, again, with KP Law. They have handled this similar request in another community, not with CADA, but with a different transportation authority. And Felicia's was part of, in her earlier role at CADA, was part of the process when they did that with Ipswich. So
Some history there that she'll know.
the only reason I'm not rushing this to have you guys vote on it tonight or at the next meeting is because the CADA Executive Board won't meet again until December now. So we have some time.
Say December?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they meet quarterly, and they took the, for whatever reason, they took the August meeting off or whatever. So their next meeting, she told me, would be December. So I'm gonna, dot all our i's and cross our t's with town council, and then we'll bring an item to you sometime in the next couple months to consider, and we'll try to make sure we know exactly how the program would work. I want to bring our Council on Aging Director into the conversation at this point. Mary Beth knows that I had the meeting and that we're talking about it, and she's very open and eager to participate if we can find a way to make it work. So this is part of what we're doing. It's not the be-all, end-all, and certainly we've still got work to do, but this is part of our response to making sure that we don't leave any of our seniors without rides.
Absolutely. So, and there'll be sort of a cost, a risk-benefit analysis of this. What could the potential downside to this be? Is it a finite contract, or does it go sort of
I think on the night that I bring it before you again, I'll ask hopefully Felicia or somebody from CADA to come and explain what they've been doing in Ipswich and how it has worked there.
Is it a typical 3-year contract or
No,
yearly?
we joined CADA, and unless, the one thing is, and the reason I didn't want to rush into it too, is that it only takes a vote of the Board of Selectmen to join CADA. It would take an action at town meeting to leave the Regional Transit
Okay.
Authority. So, and once we're in, they'd work with us to run a program. And
Gotcha.
and it's not, as I said, it's not an annual appropriation from town meeting. It would be coming off of.
Off the MBTA
The money we already-
line item there. Okay.
Great.
It's a good solution.
Yeah, it sounds like a good, very good. Excellent.
Probably plan for this sometime, maybe the second meeting in September, after you guys have already, approved the warrant language and, taken all those other votes. I would also just foreshadow and forewarn, you guys may want to have an extra meeting, may want to think about having an extra meeting in September.
September, yeah.
September, okay.
Because we'll want to make sure we get our votes and stuff in time. And
Do whatever it takes.
but if everything goes as smoothly as tonight went, maybe we won't need an extra.
We were just waiting on Rosie to show up tonight.
Yeah, yeah.
it'll be done.
Get all
We'll
our
have-
stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm excited about that as a potential solution for our seniors here.
That's great, Joe. Thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks.
Critical that
It's
we
what you guys pay me for, to do that kind of
I
stuff.
have a
so.
question.
Yes,
To
Duke.
Seaver Essex Street. I heard you say the word seniors. How about handicapped kids that need to go someplace?
Yeah,
The other,
certainly can add that in.
we never, I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
Nothing? Yep.
We never joined whatever they have in Beverly. They have the ride, I think they call it the ride.
Let's do the
Through the
MBTA.
Is
MBTA.
this the CA, whatever you just said? Is this
CATA,
going to
yeah.
be Beverly similar to that?
Yes.
So it will handle handicapped children?
Depending how I structure the program with them and how much they are able to get, yes,
That sounds
we should be okay.
I just want that to be considered.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Duke?
Yeah.
Hi, I just have a question. Don't handicapped kids or anybody handicapped have access to chair cars or some transportation like that for medical appointments and necessary appointments?
Well, this is, like, she goes The one I'm talking about, she goes to work 1 day a week. And I'm not gonna be here forever. I need somebody to drive her there and bring her home.
Okay, okay, so you're not talking about strictly medical appointments, you're talking about, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
and the CADA program does serve other than medical, so we just have to work with them to figure out what our needs are and make sure that
Yep.
we're serving the population.
That's important, and
Good
we'll
input,
do-
dude. Thank
we
you.
will
Input, dude. Thank you.
figure something out.
Okay, let's see, I think we've got a pretty full plate, but any other consideration of other topics for discussion at future Board of Selectmen meetings?
I think we're going to have our hands full with the STM.
For the STM, I know it.
Got just 3 small things, but 86 Mile Road, that's getting revved back up. We spent a lot of time on it months ago. We kind of gave them some running room to get their stuff done, and they got very little done. So it was like the week to week was hard because they kept having an excuse week to week of, oh, it was weather, it was supply, it was this. But now that they've had 2 or 3 months and nothing's happened, we need to, so we have a fine sort of accumulating, but we told them we wouldn't really
Right, and I think
force them until the summertime. So
yeah,
now
I think it's a little bit more broader discussion
Okay.
needs to happen, I think, with that property in particular, but other properties that may get into the same situation.
Right, correct, yeah.
Because my point that I'm trying to get to here, that I haven't even got to it yet, is when you have a property that's dilapidated, blighted, whatever, and you impose fines or do whatever, and at what point does it not be a dilapidated, abandoned, whatever property? You know, if the project is half done and the outside looks good,
Right.
does it come out of that?
Wouldn't that have
Or
to do
is
with
it-
permitting? Getting occupancy?
That's a
Don't they
great question.
usually give you usually
A
when you build
certificate of
a house, you
occupancy.
have like
They
2
need
years
occupancy to get out of the, sort of the building permit sort of
Right.
Yeah.
issue, right? So,
So is
You
that
have
the,
some
is that the kind of
Finish line?
the finish line, I
I
guess,
don't know if we
right?
can
Thank you,
discuss,
Jeff.
but I think we need to have this as a topic. I think it's a broader topic,
Okay,
but I agree with
okay.
you.
Good idea.
Right, because I think now
It's
the,
important to the
it's
residents.
closed up, it looks a lot better.
Yeah,
But, the lawn still isn't being quite maintained. It's slowed down a little bit. They're a couple months behind, I think.
yeah.
So, where does the enforcement stop and start, I guess?
Right.
So it would be worth a,
I think the
Looking
abandoned
into it a little bit
issue
more.
is still,
Yeah, there's a bunch of things going on there, right?
right.
So-
And if anybody's paying attention to it and you read the bylaw, take a look at it and see what we can do to improve it, for sure.
The other one is the planning board just asked me to, so we'd given them a list years ago of things to sort of focus on
Priorities,
bylaws.
yeah.
One of them was the VR, I'm gonna say VRBO, but it's not VR, it's sort of owner rentals.
Yeah,
And hasn't really come up against an issue. So before they sort of invest a lot of time and effort to sort of write a bylaw and build consensus and educate, do we think, they wanted to get the selectmen's opinion if they think they sort of, it
With
went
that one
away
in
or if it's still a
particular, or the
problem?
whole list that we had?
Just that one particular.
Did we miss, Joe, you might know, there was a window we had to do something by, I thought it was last spring or fall, with the state as far as the kind of short-term rental property stuff like that. It was something with the state legislation. I don't know if it finally went through, but I thought there was kind of a sunset on if you had something on your books before that.
I'll clarify,
It
there
was-
was some kind of sunset, but I don't believe it was to just to take any action, it was to, but it was to be able to.
Be able to do it, or was it?
No, that's what I mean. I think that we could still go back at it. We weren't prepared when that came up, and so the planning board wasn't able to put something forward for the annual town meeting, and we knew that. It doesn't keep us from being able to pursue something if the town wishes, but there was some kind of grandfathering stuff. I'll have to have town council get us
Yeah.
an explanation
I
again
can't
of
remember what it
what we
was.
missed on it, but I don't believe that it's that we can't do
We
anything.
can still
We can
legislate
still
it.
do something with it, and they've kind of set the ground rules now because the state has adopted and several towns have adopted things.
They would want to hear if we think it's
With
worth.
what the planning board, right,
Yeah,
what
they
the
look for
what-
direction from us.
what's
We
come
gave it
back
to
to
them
me,
originally, but then they haven't heard anything about it for 2 years, so
Right.
it's a really problem.
so they
It was
want to
more about the
know,
list.
should they pursue it? Is it really something worth pursuing? Do you feel like it's a problem that needs to be
Right,
addressed?
and the question is there any way they know how many properties in town are?
Yeah, go on VRBO and see if there's
Right.
rentals in Hamilton.
Most of them are in one certain area, but.
Yeah,
That was two. The third one was people have been asking me, and I know we've talked about it, but some of it's been executive session. But in terms of, is there, and I've been away a lot this summer, but is there a cell phone tower update that we can give on what's going on? Because people have been asking about it, because they still complain about service and not being able to make phone calls and safety and stuff. So they're looking for some sort of update. I'm not sure what we've decided as a selectman, what we can give as an update.
I'll
So
tell you,
that's my future.
I think that we'll definitely be able to
future
talk
meeting.
about it at the next meeting.
Yeah,
Well,
I was gonna say,
and-
sit tight.
And the last one was, just to give, I tried to give an update up front, but there was a letter written to the planning board on 7/30 from the Patton, sort of Green Meadows, that they've officially pulled their application.
And
So-
from zoning, yeah.
From zoning, so that's a current, I don't know what the next steps are, but they pulled their, they pulled their application officially. Before, they just put it on the hold,
On
I
hold,
guess.
right.
And now it's
Right.
been
That's
pulled.
pulled.
You think that's a need to talk about in a meeting, or?
No, I forgot to mention that earlier.
Yeah, okay.
All right. Excellent. Anybody have anything else? Sean, Rose?
No,
No? Okay.
Just let you know, Selectman Chairman Hubbard and Vice Chair Kennedy are meeting with me tomorrow morning to set the agenda for next week's meeting, so it's helpful to have this.
Yeah.
We have a couple of other little things that are on there. I don't think it'll be, need to be a long meeting, but
Okay. Okay, good.
And did you, sorry, you were gonna take your, go to the Wenham board with our list of 4 things, and they were gonna come back with 4 things. And
I've scheduled a meeting with the new TA down there who was on vacation this week. He was in last week for a couple, and I met him
Okay.
briefly, had about a half-hour, 45-minute meeting with him. And then he's on vacation this week, and he and I are going to be getting together next week. He's very eager for us to go over those items. His board is open to as we said before, it's
Right,
open.
yeah.
They just want to make sure there's going to be
Right.
something
Right.
accomplished,
Yeah.
not just talk. So we're going to work on the items you've given us and work out a reasonable agenda.
Okay.
I know that, we're kind of in a spirit of collaboration right now with Wenham, because the Hamilton FinCom's also been reaching out to meet with the Wenham FinCom. And the new interim superintendent has reached out to both myself and Anthony to have a joint meeting with her. I'm going to meet with her on Wednesday individually, and then we're going to get together with her also next week, so when Anthony returns, so.
Good. Good.
May I make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, you may.
Second.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, excellent.
Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
It just occurred to me, did anybody record this session?
Mary Alice said that she would watch it on the tape. Mary Alice said she'd watch it on the.
What am I looking at
on-
here?
I did.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, just give it to me, and I'll have it in the office, and then Mary Alice, after watching the tape, can see that they were voted, and she'll sign them.
People can't have private wells. Yeah,
There's nothing in here about
no,
That's a good one.
no.
whether you want to put it in or not.
That's a
I was
good,
thinking of
yeah, good question.
getting the water, going around the water meter and washing cars or selling water.
How are you?
You know, that's a good question. There are, I mean, the GPOD was mentioned as something we should address.
I know they fall under the water ban thing restrictions.
Yeah, yeah.
He'll be the one here.
Grass and stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't think,
Put in gallon jugs and sell them.
Copy the wrong
Yeah.
I don't know if
Handed
you
out the wrong one.
have rules on driving.
Pass on Tom
who knows.
McEnany, and I'll let Tom.
I
know to
don't
reach out.
think that there's anything in any of the wetlands protection.
Maybe they should.
Good luck.
I'll ask the question. I'll ask the question on Wednesday. Good, that's good to, yeah, because they're not metered. That's very good question.
That's the one from, this is the one that says they sold the property.
Yeah, McEnany. I don't know how you spell that, but buttons on the...
They don't get what we're trying to get them. We're trying to get them.
Hey, Darcy.
So is that good?
How'd we do tonight?
Joe, what's our transportation?
Did we stand our ground?
You had 2 3-year contracts for no money.
Did it come off as aggressive?
No?
Just,
I had a thing.
yeah, okay, good. Yeah.
For the board,
They can't-
information.